He was arrested in early 2010 while visiting his brother in Alabama. His brother lived at the time in Alabama, and charged in connection with a case where a leopard skin was brought into the US by an American hunter. That there were issues around the permits that had been issued with that. He was charged with smuggling. He subsequently spent 8 days in jail and around 2 months under house arrest before pleading guilty and being fined $30,000 US.
Julian, and we know there's a legal process underway in South Africa at the same time. How will authorities handle this? The process that's currently underway in tandem with this extradition that's being requested by the United States?
I think it's a bit early to say at this point. I mean, obviously there has been a court case that's been going on for a number of years. Groenewald, his wife, veterinarians, a number of professional hunters were arrested 4 years ago and charged. Prosecutors literally threw the book at them, thousands of counts. That trial's been going on. It's due to resume again in August next year in the Pretoria High Court. I think it's likely that they will wait for the conclusion of that case before, allowing an extradition. But the U.S. wildlife legislation that's in place, the Lacey Act, which governs these sorts of things, is very far-reaching legislation. It gives U.S. authorities the power to prosecute offenses that have been committed not only in terms of state and federal law in the U.S., but also under foreign law. So it gives them quite a wide jurisdictional role that they can play. These particular crimes obviously occurred in South Africa, according to the charge sheet.
It's interesting that you speak about the far-reaching effects of that law, because even if Dawie Groenewald were to get off the charges, were to be acquitted of the charges he's currently facing, what room to maneuver or to travel would he have were this case to come to an end?
Well, I think the impact here is that he wouldn't be able to travel to the United States. He would be arrested. There have been other cases where people have been charged in terms of the Lacey Act. Anson Wong, a notorious wildlife dealer from Malaysia known as the Lizard King, was arrested in Mexico and extradited to the US to stand trial in the 90s. The precedent for this kind of extradition was actually set in a South African case in 1992 when a South African Defence Force Major, Marius Meyering, was arrested after a long process, was deported to the United States and charged there with smuggling rhino horns, firearms, hand grenades into the US. These had been animals that had been shot in what was then Southwest Africa and Angola and had been smuggled out as part of military operations. So it has been done. That was the first time such an extradition had ever taken place in terms of the Lacey Act, and that essentially is the precedent that would come into play in this particular case.
Is it fair that none of the American hunters involved will face charges?
I think it's interesting that they haven't been charged. I think many of them appear to have cooperated. If you look at the charge sheet, they appear to have given details to the U.S. authorities. The U.S. authorities saying that essentially they were misled, that they came across here believing these were legitimate hunts, when in actual fact the hunting permits hadn't been issued by the local authorities, and that they were not aware of this. So time will tell what exactly is going to happen in those cases.